Ethiopia, rusted screws, metal spikes and plastic rubbish, the horrific sexual violence used against Tigray's women. From The Guardian. Tens of thousands of Tigrayan women report brutal wartime abuse by Oromo and Eritrean soldiers, such as gang rape and the insertion of objects into their uteruses. But justice seems a distant prospect. Tigray is often described as a forgotten war. If it has been forgotten, it is not by those who endured it, but by the global powers that looked away from one of the most brutal conflicts of this century. It began in November 2020. The fascist Oromo Islamic Army of Ethiopia invaded, joined by forces from the country's then ally, Eritrea, and militias from the nearby Ethiopian region of Amhara. Nobel Peace Laureate Oromo Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed Ali faces allegations of genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity by his military forces but has had no charges or sanctions laid at his door. The entire world continues supporting and aiding genocidal Abiy Ahmed. The World Bank just gave him $1 billion so that he could buy more drones. A handful of soldiers have been charged for participating in massacres or raping women. The genocidal assist Oromo Islamic regime repeatedly pushed to defund a UN-backed probe into the abuses, and the commission was finally disbanded in 2023 with no resolution to continue its mandate. Two advisors to the joint UN-Ethiopian human rights investigation, Aaron Masho and Martin Witteveen, wrote last year that the transitional justice policy had become a farce, making it all but certain that the Ethiopian government will successfully sweep its atrocities in Tigray under the rug. The Ethiopian and Eritrean governments did not respond to Guardian requests for comment. While the war is officially over, the violence in Tigray continues. Research since the ceasefire shows sexual violence by security forces has continued unabated. According to the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, Eritrean soldiers continue to occupy significant parts of Tigray, particularly eastern regions, where they are committing violations, including abductions, rape, property looting and arbitrary arrests. And now, rising tensions between the Ethiopian government and armed groups in Amhara and Oromo leave the entire region vulnerable to toppling into civil war again. Many of the women speaking to The Guardian allege they were held and repeatedly raped at military bases by both Ethiopian and Eritrean forces. Reports that indicate sexual violence against Tigrayan women was systematic, and to some extent condoned by military hierarchies. All of the women being interviewed by The Guardian have sustained significant internal or external injuries, and most need ongoing medical interventions, surgeries, and medication. Yet their access to already limited help is being severed by huge cuts to aid from the U.S. Nearly 90% of the women who experienced sexual violence during Tigray's war have not received any form of medical or psychological assistance, with about half citing a lack of medical facilities as the reason. For the women who survived the insertion of objects, living with this kind of foreign body means severe and long-lasting adverse health consequences and injuries, says Dr. Rose Olson, an internal medicine specialist and instructor at Harvard Medical School, who has reviewed and commented on X-rays from the cases. Selected comments from The Guardian readers. Sarah Jane wrote, "Oof, well, that's a tough read. Poor women and girl, I can't understand the cruelty. This needs attention. So sad. No words. Where's the outcry for these women? The protests? Bless you all, I hope more attention comes to this." Lena Maria wrote, "I read the article and went to throw up. How could we help these women and those small clinics when those in power are not interested?" Louisa Downs wrote, "I have no words for this. My heart breaks for these women. How anyone can do this to another human being is beyond me. These people make me sick." John Weed wrote, "Sounds like something the UN purposely turned their back on, quietly supported with their genocide agenda." Sarah Christian wrote, "It's time for these men to experience what they put out into the world. Women and children are sick of being used and abused." Ilona Mariana wrote, "I'm crying. Not because of horror, but because I can't avenge those poor souls and do the same to those inhumane scumbags who destroyed innocent lives." Thomas Gower wrote, "How do we get justice for these poor women? This is absolutely horrific. This is heartbreaking. Lexis Warniki wrote. Please actually read the article, so you can truly understand how bad, which is just the tip of the iceberg, it really is. Freya Normington wrote. It's a shame that the BBC is mostly focused on Gaza, so there is little time to report on Eritrea, etc. Ken Thornton wrote. Horrific, did not hear the Glastonbury bands or their hipster fans protesting against this. Not fashionable enough. Joan Bennett wrote. This is one of the most harrowing articles I have ever read, the trauma, pain and suffering these poor women endured at the hands of these men. War is brutal and I wish none existed, but sadly they do, and the use of rape, sexual assault on girls and women in war is beyond abhorrent, as it is in every case on a daily basis without question, but what these men have done is beyond words, beyond abhorrent. Do these men not understand that they are birthed by women, their mothers? How would they like this done to them, to their sister, daughter, aunt, niece, wife, granddaughter? I truly hope that each and every man who did this truly barbaric act is found, and brought to justice, and I hope that justice is harsh. Where has this come from? Why would you even think of doing this barbarous act against a girl or woman? You are not a man, you are evil, pure and simple, evil. I hope that when your days are done, you find yourself in the kind of place you fear the most, your hell not your heaven. Sue Hughes wrote. Thank you for putting this in the public eye. There is not enough on mainstream news to inform the public. They focus more on frippery and repetition. Lorley Lau wrote. This is beyond atrocious, horrifying. There are no words to describe the suffering of these women. Rashid Cates wrote. This is inhuman. I wonder and ask myself what's the role of the called UN? I read acts of war crimes happening in the presence of these people in EU, NATO, AU, G7, why do they keep on putting on neckties when these acts are happening? Why? Morris Ted wrote. Where is America? Are there no resources to pillage there? Natalie Monica Lautersberger wrote. Help the women, publish it and take action against the perpetrators. Yasmin Wild wrote. Oh my God. I think this is the worst thing I've ever read. I feel physically sick. Scott Frost wrote. And no street marches by the usual thousands of useful idiots. Davy Anderson wrote. Where are the mass protests, the flag waving, etc.? Harrison Scott wrote. Davy Anderson, the perpetrators aren't white or Jewish, so nobody cares. Speaking are against these kind of atrocities don't get as many likes on Facebook. Lily Pop wrote. Admirations to The Guardian for writing such an incredible article on a topic that none speaks about. The horrors these people endure must be made public in order someone to react. It is a real atrocity and human cruelty to stages beyond limits that have to be stopped. Keep on being bold journalists and caring to speak about what matters. Sandra Vimetal wrote. Oh my God. I got no words for this horror. Except, hell is empty because all the devils are here. Shakespeare. Isabel Efternam wrote. Barbaric and inhumane behavior. I hope justice finds them brutally. Rhea Parkinson wrote. This is one of the most horrific things I've ever read. Those poor women. Samara Kayad wrote. God help these poor women and bring them aid and peace. Julia Caruso wrote. This is an absolute atrocity and unspeakable pain. Gurmay Jebrahmariam wrote. Thank you for covering one of the most horrific stories of the Tigray War. There was nothing left undone in Tigray while the world chose to remain silent. This and many more painful stories need to get attention. Yurima Mwazu wrote. While the world and superpowers are watching. Ainchsam Jebrajurgs wrote. Our struggle will continue until the perpetrators of this atrocity are brought to justice. Anyuha Udachukwu Abubdike wrote. The animals that did this shall not go unpunished, one way or the other. I pray the women get all the help they need to recover from this evil act done by Abiy Ahmed Ali. Maria Cosima Brandt wrote. I would like to know how I can help, both for the medical help, as well as pressuring politicians. The Scouse African wrote. I sent you an article I wrote when I was in Ethiopia last year. I witnessed the Ethiopian military bombing farms and civilians. I was in the Tigray and the Amhara region. Munition of choice? Turkish drones. In the past month alone I have been sent 3 videos of atrocities committed by the ruling party. Jorge Legends wrote. Where on earth could this happen, particularly in the 21st century? All those who did it are in absolute denial. Haftam G. Gevre wrote. The world we are living becomes horror from time to time. Justice for Tigray women is justice for all women in the world. Amelia the coach wrote. Unfortunately, none of this is reported or condemned in the mainstream media. For all the talk of feminism in the West, there is horrific violence committed against women of all ages and young girls in places like these. I wish something more can be done.